Hi there, Jeremy O'Carroll, founder and director of the Fitzroy Learning Centres here. In this video, what I'd like to do is quickly guide you through some of the main features of Readers 11 through to 20. Now, the first really important thing that the Readers 11 to 20 introduce are the digraphs. Now, of course, we did have one digraph in Readers 1 through to 10, the digraph U, but apart from that, there weren't any others. And in Readers 11 to 20, we start to systematically introduce pretty well one per reader. Some readers we have a new sound, a single letter new sound, but for the most part they're digraphs. What are some examples of digraphs that we introduce? Well, we introduce digraphs like all, a, and in these readers. So as I said, we don't introduce too many. It's a really gradual integration of them. We just never do more than one new digraph per reader. That makes it easily digestible, means the students can remember it. There'll be lots of examples of that digraph found in the reader, and so it's easy to remember. So really the digraphs are one of the most important features of Readers 11 through to 20. Now, another thing that's important when we start moving up to these slightly more advanced levels is the testing process. How do we test students? Well, some good ways to test students are firstly using the spelling tests for each reader. Now, these can be found in the teacher's guide. So the teacher's guide is going to have one spelling test for all the readers 11 through to 20. So you don't have to invent the wheel. You just go to the teacher's guide, find the spelling test, test the students on the spelling test for whichever reader you want, and that will give you a good idea of whether they know the most main words found in those readers, and often the spelling test will test the most difficult words. You can also use the words we know, which are found at the start of a book, to help test students, see pretty well whether they know the kind of words we've been using up to that reader. And you can also test them on words we've used, so you can find this at the end of a reader, and so this will look at words we've used principally in the reader we're on, but also in other readers up to that point. The teacher's guide also has test sheets for each reading level. So reading level 11 through to 20, for instance, has a test sheet on it, and this test sheet is quick to do, but it does test students on the more difficult elements of Readers 11 through to 20. So while it's not going to give you a definitive answer to how well students know the material found in 11 through to 20, it does give you a pretty good indication of whether they're ready to move on to the next level or not. Now, another great way to test students, one of the very best indeed, is dictation. Now, remember we talked about this when discussing Readers 1 through to 10. But dictation, all you're going to do is you're going to take 1 or 2 pages from any reader and you're going to test the students on it. And in this way, you're going to really find out whether students can write well, not just read. Because sometimes students are good at reading but not good at writing. And often students will make really logical phonics mistakes. For instance, an example we saw in the video was that of million or millions, and it's got 2 L's, but there's no real reason why it should have 2 L's. So it's very easy for students following on with phonics principles to spell millions with 1 L, but of course that's incorrect. So what dictation teaches students to do is really iron out those kind of logical phonic errors. Okay, what else can we look at in Readers 11 through to 20? Well, one thing that's quite important once you get to these levels where you've already covered a fair bit of territory, phonic territory, is what do you do with new students? Because the new students won't necessarily have had the phonic training that your current students do. And so how do you get the new students up to speed? Well, you can do things like test them on with the test sheets found in the teacher's guide or the spelling test. But one really fast and reasonably effective way to get students up to speed is by utilizing the master list that's also found in the teacher's guide. And now what the master list does is it tabulates all of the readers and where all the new sounds and special words are found in these readers. So let's imagine that your class is doing Reader 18, you've got a new student. Well, that student really needs to know all the new sounds and special words found in Readers 1 through to 17. So the best way, of course, for him or her to know these would be to read all of the readers, but they may not either have the readers or have the time to do this, in which case you can just extract the new sounds and special words from the master list from Readers 1 through to 17 and give this list to the student for kind of homework and revision. And you know that if the student learns at least the new sounds and the special words, then they're going to be fairly well placed to keep up with the rest of the class. Now, another important thing about the process we teach is that when you teach students something, we want you to put it into practice immediately. So if you teach them a skill, if you start getting them learning to write sentences, then we want you to get them to use their newfound writing abilities in practical ways, because this is going to inspire them. This is going to show them the relevance of what they're learning. So one thing you might be able to get students to do is just make some simple little books. It could be illustrate a story they invent, or it could be, a little article on a particular theme which they can illustrate, and then you can make this into a nice book, and then children get the satisfaction of seeing something very tangible, something very physical and concrete, which they've made with the newfound literacy skills. And a book is something they can even show to other people in class. They can take it home to their parents. So it's really good physical validation for the good learning they've been doing. So this can encourage them to keep learning, because they can see in physical form the good things they can do with the lessons they've learned. Okay, now what I'd like to do is just run you through a few Fitzroy terms we use in the Fitzroy method. Now, one important one which we're going to come across are the extra sounds, or often it'll be a single letter extra sound, and an example might be the I in find. So if this was a regular phonics word, it would be pronounced find, but the it changes to a long vowel sound I. Now, it's not a digraph, because a digraph is two or more letters put together to form a new sound, whereas here we've simply got a new sound. The letters just change sound, so we call it just an extra sound, or a single letter extra sound to be more precise. Another term that you want to know is identical digraphs, and an example of identical digraphs might be the as in then and th as in thing. So you've got the th put together to produce a new sound, a digraph, but it can make two different digraph sounds. And so how do you teach this to students? Well, what we do in the Fitzroy method is we simply teach students the most common digraph first, and after that we teach them the less common. A good example of this might be in Reader 21 we teach students ch as in chip, and in Reader 60 we teach them k as in cord, which is a less common kind of digraph, but it's still an important one. So we don't teach them together, because that can produce confusion. We consolidate one, the most common one, then we teach the next one. Now, how do students know which sound to use when they're reading? Well, we just instruct them to try the most common one first, and if that doesn't work, try the other one. So for instance, if you looked at the word thing and you tried the and went thing, well, thing isn't a word, so you try the next one, thing. Now, look, it doesn't seem hugely scientific in a way, but it works. So that's just a good way. Just get them to try one. If it doesn't work, try the next. And what they're going to do, and what you can encourage them to do, is to try the one which is most common. So that's the one they learnt first. Okay, now a final point I want to make in teaching students is that you've always got to show them what's in it for them. We saw this when I was talking about putting things into practice, like with making books. And an example which comes up in Readers 11 through to 20 is alphabetical order, which we then teach the students formally. Now, the thing is, you can just say, okay, students, we're going to learn alphabetical order, but what you really want to do is give them a reason to do it, and give them a reason that's valuable for them. So, you could say, well, you can look up a dictionary, but a dictionary isn't very exciting for kids who are like 6 or 7 years of age. But maybe you could say, well, if you know alphabetical order, you can go into a video store and you can find your video or DVD that you want by just using alphabetical order, because videos tend to be arranged in alphabetical order. And in the olden days, you might have given an example of being able to look up, takeaway food or Pizza Hut or something in the phone book. These days, they don't tend to be phone books, but that gives you an idea of showing them something. So you show them what's in it for them. If they learn alphabetical order, there are certain things they can get which they like because of it. Don't tell them something like a dictionary, because that's probably boring for them. So you've got to talk about what's in it for them, not you. And if you can give them a reason to learn, then that will motivate them. It will keep them self-motivated. And so they'll actually want to learn, and you won't have to kind of thrust literacy down their throats. Okay, so that's it for Readers 11 to 20. Hope you found that useful, and good luck with your test.